Great.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good. It's been tough this morning.
She is.
She's connected.
No, Doug is observing.
What I gave you guys was from Mike. This is
Yes.
for the recycling.
Okay.
Since he is out town, he won't be sure to talk about it.
Is that plowing today?
Everybody is plowing today.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Chris, are you on there yet?
She's muted.
Unmute, Chris.
No, doesn't look like I can.
Go up to the top.
Unmute. There we go. Did it twice.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Okay. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Are you gonna be here for tonight's meeting?
I sure am trying. It depends on the roads,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it depends on how fast I can go.
Okay, we'll drive safe. I'm like, God.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll call this meeting to order. Did everybody get a chance to review the February 13th minutes?
I did.
They look good to me. Chris, did you have any comments on them?
Just that, for me, I don't need that much detail in. So if it takes too much time, Chelsea, to write them that way, I'm fine with less detail, but otherwise they're very, very complete. And it's hard to see because I see the back of the head of people. Is that
Yeah, we have
Is it
Doug here
Chelsea?
too.
and Doug? Okay, thank you. Hi.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so those are approved. So tonight we have the resolution 3640, the CDBG grant application action tonight. Do you want to go ahead and present that again, Chelsea?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was up for discussion last time, so we will vote on it this time.
Okay.
And, so everyone, just to refresh everyone's memory of the meeting, it was for the workforce housing group.
Yep.
We're pretty as a sponsor for it.
Yeah.
Pass through for it. Okay. All right, we were gonna discuss briefly the Republic, service fees, just information, because we're going to transfer it over to Chris on Public Works Committee. So the Public Works Committee will actually be dealing with this, budget shortfall that we have going on Republic service fees. Yes?
A question, Jody,
Yes.
on the grant. I had asked the city council as a budget question, if the city charges for admin fees on grant pass-throughs. If they don't, that's fine.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't, and after talking with Lonnie, she said that there wasn't really much administrative work, if any, that really goes into it, so.
I just want, yeah, that's fine. I just want, just checking
Yeah.
up on consistency.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Totally. Yep.
Yes. Okay, Lonnie and Tanae, do you wanna explain, the Republic service, the shortfall that we currently have going on?
So Mayor and I met with Mike, when we went over some stuff, and we talked with Denise too, and came up with some ideas. The shortfalls happened because back in 2018, when we went from having the bills on water, we
Yeah.
assessed it onto taxes. So we honestly missed a year's worth of, the way that taxes are and stuff. We missed kind of like a year's worth. So going forward, it kind of sustained itself for a while, but now it's, with the rates and stuff, they're not keeping up with Republic, and the way we assess them onto taxes, we're assessing the previous year's, fees, yeah. Or, yeah, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, so essentially, January of this year through December of this year goes on to taxes, and that we don't receive revenue from it until the first, tax payment in November, and then the rest of it in the second payment in May the following year. So we are always paying for services to Republic, and not collecting on the fees until the end of the year. So once we collect those, it's fine in the budget, once those fees are collected. But, we're always behind on it because we pay for those services monthly. And then we don't receive the revenue until the end of the year and then the beginning of the next year.
And then if people are behind on their taxes, then we don't receive that.
Do you think it would be better just to go back to, adding it onto the utility bill totally?
And
Is that
that's
kind of
what,
what you're,
and that's
instead of
what
property
we-
taxes?
the mayor and Mike and I and Danae all talked about that, and that, we're thinking that might be the better route to go, is to figure out what that amount would be monthly and just, take it off of taxes and put it onto water bills.
That way we're receiving revenue monthly
Monthly to
and
cover
paying
the
it out monthly.
But did we miss one full cycle?
No, just the way that it hits the books. So the, we still got our money, but it was like, because of the way it was switched, and that was before. my
So
time.
if we did this, we would probably not want to start doing it until November or May,
No,
because you don't want to miss a couple months of payments in there by.
no, and we were talking about that too, to start it in
July, so what we would do is we would charge half of the garbage on taxes when we do that in September for the
Okay.
bills in November.
For January through July.
Yep, and then
So
we would
just
start
be
in
educating
July.
the public then that you've already got the service, so you're paying for it now in your property taxes.
And
And
it's
now,
gonna be a less amount, it's gonna be half.
And
And
that,
then,
yeah, because we didn't want to have double up on, like, if we started it on the water bills, and then the full amount goes onto the taxes, so that's why we were thinking half. We would split it up between the half the year on taxes, but then start charging in July on the
and
water
then
bills.
that way, if we can figure out what that rate needs to be, we can try and correct this sooner rather than later.
so are you typically like 6 months or a whole year in arrears by the time you collect it?
Almost a whole year.
And our garbage bill is how much? I mean, for the year, how much is it? Like 330,000?
Yeah, 'cause it's like
330,000?
Yeah.
So that's a
That's
big
number.
number by the
Yeah.
time we actually finally get to
So
collect
we're
the money.
paying out a little over
45,000, yeah, I think the last one was like 45,000, or
Yeah.
something like that, close.
So how long has it been off? When did we
Since
switch?
2018.
It hasn't been off, it's just been to the where, it's just been, well, and we started adding in an admin fee in there, because that was never figured in there either, so.
Yeah, so we did that last contract, so 2020.
Yeah.
We started an admin fee to try and correct it as much as we could, but we're still always just collecting.
Yeah, but it was really 2018 because
Yeah, it was
we,
before my
yeah,
time.
because we didn't get to collect any money. We paid for the service, but we didn't collect the money till November,
November.
so.
Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
just think that process, when it was removed from bills and put onto taxes,
You're assessing a property tax, but you only get to collect it once a year.
and you don't do it
Because
until
it's
the
all
end
on
of
the
year.
first property tax bill. We're not, your garbage isn't on your May bill, it's only on your November bill.
And back then, they did an interfund loan from the building department, and like I said, this was before my time, that to cover those costs and stuff, and it's eventually been paid off, but they did some weird stuff. on
Funky
that.
accounting there. Okay.
So,
So Chris, do you have any questions when you take this back to Public Works then?
Yeah, I missed the, it's hard to hear when there's two people talking, but so I missed the actual, when it would go on the bill and, how much is it per household, Lonnie? When it would go on the water bill?
Oh, on the water bill, so I don't have a number. for
Yeah,
that
we
yet.
don't have those yet, Chris.
But just
And
roughly,
Michael,
like,
330 was charged per year.
$330 per household per year?
Yeah, that's what we pay for our garbage right now
Okay.
on your property tax.
Okay, and
So
then
you
if we
think-
do, I'm just doing the rough math here. So if we do half of a year, that would be 165. And then that would be
Right.
on 6 months of the water bill?
No, from now on, what they're proposing is that our garbage, starting July 1st, the annual fee would be divided by 12.
Yep.
So that would be added to your water bill.
Okay, starting July 1st of 2024.
Yeah, but in November, we would still need to collect a half a year's garbage to pay for January through July's garbage service that the city provided to its
Okay.
residents.
Okay,
So
so
they would get a bill on
November,
their property tax for like $165
so
in
November,
November.
December, January, February, March. And I just want to make sure I've got this all clear.
This year.
Right, and then
Then it would be an
right, and
extra,
after
So it'd
that, there
be-
would be no more garbage on your property taxes.
so
So,
just to be, hold on a second. So just to be clear, so November, December, January, February, March, April would have 165 divided by 6 extra on the, in addition to what we're starting in July. Correct?
So Chris, we haven't sat down with the numbers yet, so I wouldn't focus too much yet on that, because it still will have to go to public hearing and stuff, because it will be a rate change for the public. So, we'll have to sit down with Mike and stuff to figure out the numbers going forward.
No, and I
So-
get that. I don't need the exact numbers. I'm just trying to understand the process of, when it would happen.
Right, so.
And so I'm using,
July 1st, we'll figure out what the annual garbage fee would normally be for that whole year, divided by 12. And that would be what's added on to the water bill. So you'd be
Yep.
paying for your garbage service as the service happens.
Yep.
And then in November, there'll be one final bill assessed on your property taxes for a half a year. And that's
Okay.
to pay for the service that was already given from January through June 30th.
okay,
Of
so
this
that's just
year.
a one-time assessment, basically.
Right, a one-time assessment.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. That makes sense.
So yeah, if you wanna, have Public Works, take this over, that'd be great.
Yep.
From here on out, and work with Mike on it, I guess,
Yeah,
and
the mayor and.
Okay.
I'll work.
We can take it on Public Works, right, Chelsea?
yep, that'd be fine.
Okay, all right,
Thank you. Thank you for explaining.
yes, okay. All right, so council rules and procedures, we have in our packet, the two resolutions, the council rules and procedures and the one resolution that changed them, that wasn't included in it. Has anybody come up with any other changes that we want to do for our council rules and procedures so far? We want to add standing committees, because they're not in there. Define and specify appointment procedures. Right now, the mayor technically is supposed to, appoint them. This year, he allowed, council president to do the appointment, and obviously, we did that, I did that with input from all of council on that. And just so you know, the part of the way that I did it, and it doesn't have to be this way because it's not written anywhere, is I tried to make it so that each ward had a representative on each standing committee. So that was, you know, there's nothing written about that. We could add that if we wanted to, but, you know, that was part of what I did.
Yep.
Small town, so I guess, you know, it doesn't. There's people who think we shouldn't even have words anymore, so there you go. I don't know. And then, we do, I think it was general consensus that we do want to make minutes required of all standing committees, because if they are publicly announced meetings and we're taking minutes, then that does allow other city council people to sit in on the meetings if they wish.
Yep.
If we don't do minutes, then it's like, you can only have 3, that's it. So that's kind of the difference there. And I think the minutes actually help,
Yeah.
keep the committees on, you know, it's just my personal opinion, keep the committees on track. And then right now, if we do want a work session, we can have that, it is in there. I'm okay with the way things have been going with our council business at the end of the meeting, rather than having a work session before official council meeting.
Yep.
So we.
Yeah, I
we
agree.
could
I like
have
that. I like the way
Yeah.
that it's looking right now. It's very helpful to see what's going on everywhere.
Okay, so we, you know, that would be a small change in there, would be to basically say that, the council business is at the end of the meeting, and that's where we talk about all our standing committees and
Yep.
ask for input.
So I did draft up those changes
Oh.
into here,
Oh, awesome,
So-
thank you.
try to be proactive. So essentially, under meetings, did make that change to where it would say regular meetings for the transaction of city business will be held the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. Because before, it just said that regular meetings would be the second Tuesday of each month, and then we'll have a work meeting, and then the fourth meeting would be a work session. It was weird writing, so I edited that, to where it just be regular meetings for the transaction of city business will be held the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. Meetings will begin at 6 and shall conclude no later than 8 p.m. unless council votes to extend the meeting. If the council so choose, they can schedule work sessions to focus on specific topics and schedule the work session during the city council regular meeting times. The agenda should reflect this work session. Should the regular meeting day, I also added this part, originally it's like, if the regular meeting day be recognized holiday, we can, with proper notice, either cancel or set an alternate meeting. I also put in here, and I'm not sure how you guys feel about it, but should the regular meeting day be recognized holiday affected by council attendance or dangerous weather or conditions, the council may, with proper notice, either cancel the meeting or set an alternate day for the meeting, just because it started to snow a lot yesterday. I'm like, maybe we
Yeah.
should consider that.
Well, and we did cancel the meeting, I don't know what our, like when we had the flood.
Right, yeah.
I think, you know, we can cancel the meeting already, you know, and it's
Yeah.
perfectly fine to put that in there, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I know that we've canceled for meetings around holidays, just because people will be traveling. So
Yeah,
to
we
me, just-
usually always cancel the final meeting of the year,
Yeah.
type of thing. So, but we have to move to do so.
Yep, so just added that, and then otherwise, under, meetings, I added section 6, which would be specifically around the standing committees. I need to go through and change all my language, because I accidentally put subcommittees for everything. So, swap that out, but on a whole, just added those sections. The council may choose to hold standing committee meetings, for the purpose of addressing topics concerning city matters and take additional time to work on city business. Standing committees shall consist of 3 city council members. The council president will be responsible for selecting standing committee members. Standing committee meetings will be open to the public, and public participation will be encouraged. The public is asked to only make comment as detailed in the agenda or when addressed by the committee. So again, it keeps it flexible, but like the same way
Yeah.
that someone raises a hand, we can have that
because that's the
conversation.
point of having the committee meetings, is so that the public can actually interact with council on a more
Exactly.
one-on-one basis, for
Yep.
sure. So,
Standing,
it's fun.
right. Standing Standing committee meetings will be held in the council chambers on the date of council meetings at the time decided by the committee members. Each standing committee shall be required to keep and post meeting minutes, and those minutes shall be maintained by the city clerk and distributed with council agenda packets. Minutes should be available to the public. Meetings, may be recorded and available via electronic means. Meeting agendas will be submitted to the city clerk no later than the Thursday prior to the next meeting at 12 p.m. Staying consistent with our other stuff.
Yeah, so, I did want on the deadline to submit items for the packet and the agenda. I just had a suggestion, after working more on getting Friday's agenda going,
Mhm.
because so much of what's pulled from our business agenda comes off of our standing committee agendas.
Yes.
I think it would be nice to have because it's not that hard to do up these agendas.
Sure.
I would personally like to have the deadline for the standing committee agendas to be on Wednesday,
Yes, I think that's great.
so that, then the mayor, and the council president and Lonnie can work on the main agenda on Thursday, so that if, Lonnie or Danae wants to take a day off on a Friday, they don't have to, they can do so without,
Yep, totally.
then we can have that agenda done, pretty much all done by Thursday.
Perfect. And then the only thing I added to standing committees, standing committees will report their findings and discussion at the following city council meeting for council consideration and input. So,
And on that, submission of items, it's only the standing committee agendas by Wednesday. If you still have something additional that you would like added to the agenda, you could always do that on Thursday by 11, correspondence, that type of stuff.
perfect.
Was just my suggestion. Chris, did you have anything else?
No, that's all good. Thanks. Thanks for doing that, Chelsea.
Okay, and I totally missed number 4, I'm sorry. Business registration and liquor licenses. I'm sorry.
I think that's gonna be probably a meatier conversation, so.
Yeah, okay. So if you would like to,
I'll make these edits and I'll send them out to you guys.
yeah, and also, we have a Google Drive.
Okay, can you share that with me? I have not been
Chris-
added to
Chris?
that.
Could you share that with her?
For the
Google Drive?
admin? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I did a little bit of homework on the liquor licenses and just our overall business registrations and how those work with one of the current ordinances. So on a whole, I think our Title III business registration for certificates, I didn't have a whole lot of notes on that. Mostly it seems like we just have to change our license structure. So one thing I did do is I went to the Montana Department of Industry and pulled all of their different licensed, businesses, just for reference. It might help us with generating our list.
Okay.
I know we need to work on the applications as well, and so that's one thing that I put some notes down on. But yeah, I have a whole long few lists of all the different professions and occupations that are licensed by the state. So just so when we're moving forward, it's not just liquor and beer or liquor licenses that we're looking at, it's across the board to keep us consistent.
Yeah, but you gotta remember too that it's registration for us.
Right.
It's not licensing, and the only reason that we're coming to the liquor stuff is because there was something changed.
Right.
So, but not with all of those, so we can still require registrations for those other ones.
Right.
You pulled.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just, I know that we need to essentially call them registrations throughout and essentially change the language of what the beer and liquor registration is. But just so that way we know we have all these too, because that change does qualify for anyone that's licensed by the state. So it's not just liquor, it is all of it. And again, I'm good with having registrations as long as we're doing it legitimately. So that was one thing that I just thought would be beneficial to have, is that list, and I'll put that in the drive and share that with you, Chris, as well. Again, it's mostly just for reference than anything else. And then in terms of the registration and what it says, I think it's just I'm gonna find it, sorry, I printed off a lot of stuff last night. I know. We're getting more, it's fine. Gosh, that was, I think it was right at one point. I don't know if it's the top way I find it, that's fine.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
So I put together, I told Jody, an application packet.
Cool.
Okay, so, and it will have a copy of all the stuff, the ordinance for resort tax, our resolution setting fees, and then our business registration ordinances in there. So here's the fees, and then here's a copy of the new application that I kind of put together
Nice,
with lots of
okay.
suggestions. So if this is what you were starting with, that's the one
Okay,
setting fee.
perfect.
Can I get a copy of that too, please? I mean, not right
Yes.
now, but can you have that for me? Maybe Chelsea, would you mind just bringing that at the 5 o'clock meeting?
Sure.
Thank you.
So when we did this, when we're getting in trouble, is it because we're adding an extra fee for people who have a liquor license and who have a beer and wine license?
So
Okay.
my understanding is that if we call it a registration and not a license, it
Right.
doesn't matter. However, we just can't charge a license for something that the state already requires a license for. So if we call it a registration,
Right.
essentially that is our workaround, and we can charge the fees that we have been charging.
Okay.
Do we want, this is where Dennison, I think we need his input on that. Just because,
And it was my understanding too that we couldn't like line item single out the liquor one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to punch that from what Dennison has said. He said that as long as it, because we looked online on our ordinance, everything says registration, and he said we're good that way. But on the fees, because we have that singled out and charge an extra, that we need to like group it
and then
with
short-term
another.
rentals is another one that has come up.
And that one's a hot mess. So I went through that yesterday. And-
So like, I think short-term rentals are required obviously to be registered through the state as well, and we specifically call out hotel, motel, short-term rentals.
Lodging, just call it lodging.
So I think that's what we need to do, is just clean up how we're wording stuff.
Right.
So the SDR, the state requires a license, and what I hear you say is that the city can't require a license on top of that, but they could require a registration.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. It's ours is a
Ours
register.
is a
of registration.
registration, yep, and has been.
So like any small business in Red Lodge would be required to be registered with the
Yeah.
city.
Yep.
Yep.
Because, I mean, plumbers and electricians are all licensed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Insurance, I mean, I'm licensed as an insurance agent through the state,
Yeah.
so,
And hotels. Yeah,
Right.
so, I mean, the reason why we require registration is to promote health and safety. And we do that through requiring certain things from the businesses, and then we keep a list of those businesses. And so our intent for having businesses register is to promote health and safety.
Yep.
And so it's separate, and I think it's something that we need to continue doing and move forward with for that reason. But we also, with that new law passing, we need to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Yep.
And wording things correctly.
so, I'm just curious, so like, if, like, your restaurant, $100. If I have beer and wine, it's $250, right?
Mhm.
And then, because with liquor, you also have beer and wine. So, but with liquor, is it just $350?
Total.
Okay, so yeah, they're not
Yeah.
paying like 100 plus 250 plus 250, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we've always done is that the registration is the base, everybody has the
It's
registration.
$100, yeah.
And then you have an add-on, beer, wine, liquor, it's an
Right.
add-on to the original 100.
Right.
Based on how that industry impacts health and safety?
So I don't know the intent previously. All municipalities do charge for beer, wine, liquor. I don't know the reasoning behind it, that was prior to me, very well.
It has to do with alcohol and the increased police needed for,
Yeah.
you know, over, you know, DUIs. But, you know, it's not just, yeah, you're not just going to the grocery store to buy groceries or, you know.
And so that was one thing, I went through, Title III, the business registration certificate, all of those pieces. And the main purposes and intent for, the registration as well as how the fees are imposed is knowledge and inventory of the business in the area, ensure that the proper taxes are being paid to the city, so if it's a resort tax,
Right.
protect the safety and well-being of the Red Lodge residents, and create a mechanism to determine if there's any additional needed inspections or compliance with regulations. So with those, it's like, in terms of setting this group, like, do we want to broaden that out? And essentially the way we do it is create a scale or a criteria where it's like, what impact does this have on our community? How much additional police force is needed? How much additional inspection, admin, tracking down resort taxes? And then from there, once you have that criteria, that's also how you can generate your fees. And then it's not just like throwing a dollar amount, it's very like methodical of how that's figured out. And then when someone comes to question it, like, this is why this is this fee. So I think that's a protection with the beer, liquor, because I mean, again, a restaurant that just serves coffee and donuts is not gonna have nearly the same impact as a bar that's serving liquor at 2:00 in the morning. There's going to have to be additional police force, it's gonna generate additional, resort tax and follow-up. And again, another question that would be, like, for our city as well, is there additional inspections that the city does, or is that all on a state level? Because, like, for instance, one thing with short-term rentals is we do get inspections from the fire department, but we pay those inspections, like, we
Right.
organize that, the city doesn't. And so, like, is there a need for that additional cost because the city's not actually doing any additional work?
So so does the Pollard Hotel purchase a business license per room?
Right.
The answer is no, correct?
No, no, but a short-term rental, you don't purchase it per bedroom.
But we
No.
do a purchase per building.
But
Right, and
my-
so does the hotel.
My
motel.
stance would be that a professional company such as ours, like, when we collect taxes and submit to the city, we do so as an entity. So there's no more work on the part of the city to process our resort tax collection than there is when the Pollard Hotel contributes or passes through its resort tax. So, I mean, and I've been hammering this for a while, guys, so
Yeah.
I'm
no,
gonna
yeah.
still argue that our health and safety is no more of a burden to the city than a hotel or a motel, because our guests have the same opportunity to go downtown and recreate and maybe get out of hand, maybe not, as any guest who's staying at the Yodler or the Pollard, et cetera.
One thing that, our new short-term rental, regulation ordinance that puts a cap on short-term rentals, it does state that the short-term rental has to be used in that year.
Yes.
So I think moving forward, there's gonna be some changes that need to be made. Chelsea brought that up last time, is that property managers are most likely gonna have to start reporting per house for resort tax. Otherwise, we don't know if that house is being rented or not within that year. So she did bring that up, which that will definitely, I'll have to separate all of those out and keep track of it. We keep track of short-term rentals, in our system per account, so per tax ID. So you have a couple of rental units and you have one account, but we keep fire inspections, public health and accommodations license for each of those, whereas like the Pollard, we don't.
Yeah, they're only
There's just
required
one.
to do one.
Yes.
And so, the one thing that is in here to her note is there is, multiple businesses and branch establishments owned by the same individual or entity. And so this is where I was wondering with the STR ordinance, and I wrote a few questions down, but one of the pieces is branch establishments, business registration shall not be required for branch establishments, including off-site warehouses and distribution plants or other locations of the business.
Owned though.
And so this is where I find it interesting, is when, and it kind of goes into the cap as well. So with the STR ordinance, the owner of the property and the owner, or the property and the owner share that license, and it can't be split, right? But we are also the ones that are on that license as, like, we're the ones managing it, and we're the ones basically taking ownership of this license, but when that person were to leave, that leaves us, right? So I think that gets a little tricky with how we have the types for STRs, like, for one, some language has to change there at the very minimum, but,
You mean as it's written in the ordinance?
yeah,
Which ordinance,
So
so the
that's-
business one or the STR?
the
one?
STR ordinance.
Okay, but we're talking about the business one.
Right,
So that section right there specifically came up for short-term rentals when all of this was coming into place and we started our software. Denison does have a written opinion on that section.
oh, that'd be great.
So I'll provide that to you guys.
That'd be
I'm
awesome.
sorry, I didn't
That's
get to you. But his opinion on it was that the property manager is a business,
Mhm.
and then each short-term rental is also a business.
Okay,
And that the short-term rentals go by, essentially tax ID or property or parcel.
yep,
That's how he would consider, the location. So, it's essentially a different establishment or a location once you leave that parcel. So that's kind of why when
Okay.
we were asking about Lower Continental and that one, I was not quite sure because that parcel is a condo master, whereas I'll use yours, she has multiple rentals on her one parcel.
yep.
And we only require the one short-term rental registration for the whole thing,
Mhm.
which is where we would like some clarification.
Yeah.
Just-
And I think, so that's actually in the zoning code where that is written out. So that would be something that would definitely, I think it needs to be addressed because, again, it's very confusing and for folks.
We definitely want to be consistent across the
Right.
board.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we want it to be fair to everyone. I mean, everyone gets treated exactly the same.
Yeah.
If you fit in this is what you
Yeah.
get.
Because we have rumors out there now that
Yeah.
Alpine Basin can sell a property and an STR license, and it can change ownership.
Yeah,
And
which
that
is,
is conditionally granted to Alpine Basin, which may be false. I mean, I'm just saying that that's what's being, I had a realtor contact AAA and want us to manage an Alpine Basin. And I'm like, what? Like, we can't, as far as I know, we can't do that, and we don't want to get in the mix.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of confusion out there with the business license,
Yeah, I think
or the
he
business
has
registration.
Yeah, he has some other stuff going in the background where he requires somebody who purchases to use his service.
yep, it's in the
That-
HOA.
Yeah, that we don't get into.
No,
But-
but the rumor is that STR, let's call it a registration. The rumor is that registration on that address can be sold with the house. And that is not consistent with how STR registrations are handled in our inventory.
Yeah,
So-
maybe manipulating the wording a
Yeah.
little bit, but, the short-term rental is only guaranteed once you've applied for it.
Yes.
And so, once that's been applied for, it follows the property always, because that's what the short-term rental ordinance states, is that it follows the property.
Unless the cap's been set.
No, that's not what it says. So what it
Because I was under
says,
the impression that it doesn't follow the
Property owner. Yeah, the property owner.
it has to be both, it can't be separate. So I'm sorry, the only
Yeah.
reason I brought that up was
Okay.
because with talking about the licensing piece,
Yeah.
this ordinance is gonna have to change.
Right, and we will want to go through and make, sure everything is consistent for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is that do we have to, I mean, so you're saying we can't classify a business registration based on whether or not they serve alcohol?
I believe so. I don't think we can do that.
Because then wouldn't it be also the same with our dispensaries? So we have to, but, so we would just, how do we do that then? Do we just create tiers then? Based on what you do?
Yeah, like have a high impact tier, medium impact tier, low impact. And then underneath that, it would still have to have some sort of like classification or qualification underneath it. So I mean, that could still get it. I think we need Dennison
Right.
for this conversation.
Yeah, and I did reach out to him after our last meeting, and he's been on vacation.
Oh, right,
He was,
Yeah.
he was supposed to be back today, but stuff came.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
that, yeah, that's kind of a bigger conversation then. If we have to totally revamp how we're doing our business license fees because we can't charge a different, we can't create categories like for a dispensary or for a short-term rental or for someone who sells beer and wine because they're already licensed for those.
Yeah.
I mean, we still can charge them a registration, but apparently we can't say you're a bar, you sell liquor, you need to pay $3.50.
And I think what we could do is, because just looking at the fees, there's, you know, we can group them together like you guys were saying,
Mhm.
by whatever the fee
Yeah.
is. But then within the ordinance, you know, spell it out, this, you know, however you guys categorize these ones, and then put in the ordinance, like, what those businesses would fall under that, so that when somebody comes in and we're like, okay, what is your business? This is where you fall.
Yeah, you could have like service industry businesses, like plumbing, electricians, carpenters, those type of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you'd have your restaurants, your,
Yeah, 'cause it
you
could
know,
literally
your
be,
grocery stores, your gas stations, your
yeah, you could
for
have.
retail, you could have a separate category for retail, you could have, like
Yeah, I think you could totally condense this and just
Yeah.
come up with different terminology as far as how you're gonna categorize it.
and then the high impact ones would be, you know, basically your restaurants, your dispensaries, your short-term, you know, your lodging, and all of those, and,
And again, I think that creating a criteria for making that scale would be crucial.
yeah.
And then we could actually get feedback from other city departments, because again, the way we create those fees has to be consistent with the purpose of those fees. And so if we created a criteria of like, scale of 1 to 5, how much does the police force have to go out for this type of business? And just have them fill out a quick little survey on that, that would, I think, be really beneficial.
We have to be careful because some of that, we get pushback from business owners, like, well, it's the police department's job, they're supposed to protect all the businesses in town type of thing.
And time is of the essence on this too, because
Yeah.
we have to have the fees redone, by June 1st, when we start sending out, plus to follow that state thing that passed and to be in compliance, we have to get it done sooner than later.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Bonnie?
that law that
Yeah.
passed was so vague.
Chris, go ahead.
Lonnie, I think you're on that clerk listserv where you talk to other clerks around the state.
Yes, I am.
Is this a discussion topic, or has anybody else solved this issue? Because we're all in the same boat, right? Each municipality.
Right, there was a lot of conversation that came up, last fall with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what other towns have
So
done.
then that city attorney was supposed to meet with the leagues, and maybe they got more direction, I don't know. I haven't heard anything more from that meeting, and so I think we need Dennison to reach out to the league to see if he could get some more direction from the league on what path we should be going down. I mean, we can ask the clerks as well, but I definitely think that it should be done through Dennison.
Okay.
And,
That sounds like a great idea.
a lot of other smaller towns don't quite do it the way that we do it.
Okay. Well, you know, I mean,
For a
there's,
resort community, it's a little bit different.
yeah, and I mean, the main thing for a resort community that is I guess I could see would be like the lodging, the restaurants, you know, I mean, those are the high impact type businesses, you know, where they're open until later, or they're, you know, dealing with, you know, visitors throughout, you know, and then the collecting of the resort tax and, you know, and then on the low end would be our service industry, although, you know, you are collecting things to make sure they're licensed with the state, so we don't get, you know.
I think as far as the
People in
fees
and-
go, because we did a lot of research on other towns as far as the fees
Yeah,
go.
yeah, we
So I don't
did.
think the fees need to change, I
No,
think we just need.
I'm just kind of, if we do categories, we kind of, you know, the $100 registration fee for, you know, a service industry, I think is probably still good.
Yeah, I don't,
You
like I said,
know.
I don't think the fees need to change, I think you guys just need to recap.
No, but how do we, you know, categorize, you know, do downtown Main Street, do their fees go up, you know, retail brick and mortar building, or, I mean,
Yeah,
I
home
mean.
occupation
Yeah,
and accountants, like, that's the thing, I was thinking about it when I was thinking of what those impacts are, is it a high traffic area, does it generate, increased parking? Again, inspections required by the city, and if those are done by the city, how big of a space it is, potentially hazardous, that's another one, like gas, fire, like
Yeah.
what kind of materials are they working with? And then higher than average calls for public safety. Like, those were some of my first ones that I came for, high impact, and then low impact, obviously low traffic, less parking, if any, minimal inspections, home occupation, smaller spaces, fewer possible hazards, fewer emergency to no emergency calls, like, that's kind of that scale that I was.
yeah, and we had talked about doing, like, the retail based on their square footage, on how they would be charged, was
But
another
I know
thing.
that came up and that was kind of a.
We
That'd be
talked
a lot,
about,
yeah.
yeah, we talked about it, like, you know, I have 8,500 square feet as a market, you know? Whereas, you know, a little, you know, Lotions and Potions says like 1,000, you know, so.
And again, I think it's more based off the nature of what kind of inventory you'd be holding. So instead of actually square footage of the building, it would be like, okay, grocery store obviously needs backstock storage, all that kind of thing. For you and Lotions and Potions, truly, like, by the nature, you don't have a whole lot of backstock that's happening. It's more of that, you're supporting cottage industry type folks and providing them a space, but it's not generating any additional, like, warehouse or drop-off shipment, that kind of thing. That's kind of where I think of when I think of space.
Yeah, I guess I don't wanna make it too complicated.
That's fair.
We want to keep it simple.
I know, especially if we have to have this done by June. Yes,
I guess, since I've been paying these fees.
yes, forever.
Since 1979.
Yes.
If you're going to charge according to, say, hazards, or more demand from the police department, where are those fees gonna go? Are they just gonna go to the general budget and get put into
Well, there's
something else?
budget
Or would
for-
it be,
Right.
okay, bars and restaurants create more problems because they sell alcohol? Whatever your justification is.
Yeah,
Sure.
well,
Who's gonna handle that is gonna be the police department, so why would the additional fees not go to the police department?
Right.
Goes into the general fund is the police department.
Right,
Yeah.
but designated
Well,
in the general
and
fund.
what we did, the way when we raised these fees last year, or the year before, I can't remember when we did this, but, what we did is we calculated out how much of the general fund budget was going to service and take care of our businesses. And we set these fees so that basically it was paying for that service. The businesses with these registration fees were paying for that service. That was our whole goal. And we had it figured out pretty well until the state threw us this monkey wrench. So basically, there's 3 categories here that we potentially could get in trouble with the state on, and that's having the lodging as a separate category, including short-term rentals, because they are registered separately through the state, liquor licenses, and cannabis. So,
But like I said, I don't think the fees need to change.
no, I don't think the fees need to
But I
change,
think
but
you
if we
guys
could
need
like categorize those 3 items, or,
And like Dennison said the last time, you can't single out certain things. That's why, because we had,
Right,
initially, we had short-term rentals by themselves, and he's
Right.
like, nope, you can't do that.
right, and that's why we put it in hotel, motel, and
Yeah.
all you have to do is say lodging, but we could create, the third category for hotel, you know, for all of these, you know, together, liquor, cannabis, lodging, go ahead.
Just a point of interest would be, we understand that the Pollard is creating a higher demand on sewer and water
Right,
than a normal household. So you have a fee, you're structuring a higher fee because of those types of impacts. But at the same time, short-term rental doesn't impact the sewer and water system any more than a regular house.
yeah,
So throwing them into that category, you're
the,
penalizing them for something they're actually not doing.
the difference is that they get, the Pollard pays that fee in their water and sewer bill.
Right.
A huge water, that's where they pay for that impact. This is simply the admin part of the city and what it costs the city to administer and take care of, you know, the administrative part of the resort tax, the doing the registration, collecting all of the, making sure everybody, it has all their paperwork in order. That's really all we nailed it down to. We honestly did not really calculate any of our police in these fees when we set them, because we had such a pushback from some of the business owners that were saying that that's their job and they're already paid for that job, so. We didn't,
Well, in all reality,
yeah,
there's an impact from every business,
yeah,
whether it's shoplifting in a retail store
exactly.
versus
They're,
DUI from
Yeah.
from afar.
there is.
So they're not these big impact differences. The only thing that always ruffled my feathers was grocery store should pay for a chamber membership, should pay more because they're bigger
Yeah,
and they got more money. And that's not necessarily true,
I agree.
right,
if you don't
yeah,
understand.
oh, yeah, no, I get it.
So be cautious of how you
Yeah, and
apply
I,
fees, not based on their presumed bank account.
Sure.
no, and it's not that, it was more, honestly, it had more to do with, the time that admin puts into these different categories completely. And then we also have the short-term rental software that we eventually want to be paid out of the admin fees. Right now, it's being paid out of resort tax. And that's $13,000 a year.
And I did the math based off of our limit, that's about $30 per property.
Well, keep in mind, no matter how much work and effort you put into this, you're not gonna satisfy everybody.
No.
No, you're not, no, we're not, and if we open this up again, we're gonna get, a lot of outcry again, and we just did this. So
And
I
it's
wanna
just
make it
simple.
quick and
That's why
simple
simple
and,
is better.
Right, and I
Simple,
know,
yeah.
like I said, the fees are fine,
yeah,
but it just has to be and Danae and I can get with Dennison, because I know there are some gray areas that we've come across in the ordinance, so we can get those.
would you do that, and.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, and then bring it back to our next meeting, and we'll have this discussion, hopefully with some ideas on how we can categorize these without calling out that they're, not separated out from.
And like I said, I will talk with Dennison as far as categorizing it within the ordinance.
Yeah, and maybe we just do tier one, and then you list all those type of businesses there instead of having it, we're charging, and then tier two, and you list all of those businesses there, and then tier three.
Yep.
As long as it's clear, like that's,
Yeah,
so yeah, I did print these off, and these are the categories the Montana State uses. But obviously, they probably won't work the same because this is how they license. So we gotta be really careful not to use some of these. But, so there's agricultural, city and county, gambling, liquor, beer and wine, cannabis, Montana contractor, and then ESOP business programs, and professional and occupational. So it might just be that professional and occupational.
yeah,
It could be, again, lodging, it could be food and beverage, and that I would consider more service industry, or just like,
well, service industry, for me, service to me was more like
And I-
plumbers
yeah.
and, handyman and.
yeah, and I would put that
type
in like the contractor, vendor category,
So careful on contractors, because a lot of them have to be licensed. So.
that's true, yeah, so,
Yeah,
So yeah, I think once we hear from Denison, that's when we can actually move on this a little bit, but.
Yeah.
We'll get them nailed down before then.
Okay. Chris, do you have any additional comments on any of this?
Nope, I do not. I think it's talking to Dennis would be a good idea. And
Okay, perfect.
On the agenda tonight for discussion.
No, no, not yet. Not yet. Although you can comment on it.
Sure, no, I don't need to, I don't need to respond. I just want it to be clear, because I,
Yeah, yeah.
no, I don't need to.
Okay, all right, well, 10 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, that's good. Now I get to go shovel.
Yay. Do you have the, there's, Chris, remind me one more time what it was you wanted me to bring to you tonight? It was the.
just a copy of, I don't know what, I don't remember what it was, a copy of that maybe?
Yep, yeah, city business registration packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then that, the 907, I converted it to PDF and I'm working on like retyping it so that we can make edits.
Anything
Bye,
else, Chris?
everyone. Have a good
before I
day.
end? You too.
Thanks.
Drive careful.
Yeah, drive safe.
Thank you.
Really nice.